and got caught in traffic. And we also have some supporters here from Richmond who, through the grapevine, heard that she was going to be here and came back a second time. They believed me this time. Last week they believed me too, but came back to show their support. And Ingrid, one thing that we've been trying so desperately to do here in Richmond is to say that, and thank goodness for your organization, because we would never know this had it not been for your organization, to say that animal issues have hit mainstream America. Business people are appalled, students are appalled, activists are appalled. Everybody is appalled at what we're finding out as a result of some of the things that you have done. We're constantly having to fight the terrorist issue, the militant issue, and one thing I'd like to try to continue to clear up, and I guess some things will never go away, but PETA, animal supporters, true animal supporters, do not condone militant action and have never participated in anything like that. And civil disobedience is not one of the worst things that we've done, I guess. One thing I wanted to focus on tonight, we are going to discuss the medical issue, the big M word, and I ask that you be open, and I'm going to assume that a lot of you are like me. We've been raised to believe that certain things are acceptable. We need medical research on animals for our own selves, and that's certainly believable. Because of Ingrid Newkirk and PETA, we're beginning to find out otherwise. And again, I think one of the things I'd like to say about Ingrid is she brought animal issues out of the closet, and she made it easy for us to be able to discuss issues instead of just agree with what we've been taught all these years. Medical research is necessary. Ingrid, an article came out in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and you were quoted. Congratulations. Dr. Goodwin, who is the administrator of the Alcohol, Drug Abuse, and Mental Health Administration, said that we don't torture animals. That's a direct quote. How do you feel about that?
I wish that what he said was the truth, then we could go out of business, at least on the medical experimentation issue. The problem is Goodwin himself is an animal experimenter. He has been for 25 years. He's used hundreds and hundreds of animals, and he's set himself up not as someone who is out to save human health and the health in the best possible way, but as the champion of all the beleaguered animal experimenters who are having their work exposed with our videos, whistleblowers inside the labs saying enough's enough. I can't change things internally. If the public knew about this, they'd go crazy. Here's the information. We've got people going to the press, people going to Congress, people going to their local newspapers, and people walking off the job. And we now have so much documentation of wrongdoing that Dr. Goodwin, about 18 months or so ago, wrote a memo to all the internal chiefs at the National Institutes of Health. He didn't think we'd ever see it, but we have friends everywhere. Someone leaked us a copy of this memo, and it said pretty much, boys, now's the time to stop cleaning our own house and fight these animal rights because our careers are on the line.
Oh, such concern.
Yeah, so Mr. Goodwin wants to go into the schools now, and with a budget that is supposed to be used to teach children not to use drugs, how to deal with drug-related problems, and so on, he is instead going to teach them how to be, to lock out their feelings, their good feelings about animals. He believes the same sort of thing as the Bambi syndrome. He doesn't want them to grow up to challenge what he and his friends are doing. And I think the public, whether they care about animals or they don't, luckily most people do, should be absolutely outraged and say, that's not what we pay taxes for, to indoctrinate children to be desensitized. We want that money to go into drug treatment programs for human beings.
And I think when you have physicians forming committees to abolish medical research on animals, when you have scientists who, as you said, have walked away and said no, maybe not necessarily from the moral issue or the humane issue or ethical issue as far as animals go, but from the issue that it's a waste of funds, and it's giving physicians and scientists a bad name, because they now know we have other resources and other alternatives to bring about quicker results. That's another quote of his too, and no, alternatives won't replace animals.
He wishes they wouldn't. But of course, history is going to leave him in the dirt. That's just a fact of life, because in fact animals have, non-animal methods have replaced animals in many things. The National Cancer Institute, which is just down the block from him, now uses what are called in vitro methods. They use test tube methods to determine whether a substance is carcinogenic, and they can get those results in a test called the Ames test within about 72 hours. The old animal tests take 2 to 3 years. They cost thousands and thousands of dollars. They cost animal lives. And when you finish the tests, you don't really know. Just because something caused cancer in a rat or a rabbit, you're not sure whether that means that that substance is going to cause cancer in you, because the physiology is very different. Of course, Goodwin likes to argue that we sentimentalize about animals, and that we shouldn't confuse the animals in our homes, pets, with animals in the lab. And I ask him, where were you when we had Biology 101? What was the difference that suddenly divests these animals of sensitivity and feeling just because you put them in a steel cage in a basement and start doing horrible things to them? Physiologically, they may be different in that some react to substances different than others and to human beings, but they feel pain, they feel terror, and
it's hard to believe that that is still even alive today, the concept that animals don't feel pain
Isn't
and terror.
it? Yes.
And we think we've put it to rest, but I guess we haven't. Also, I understand that he is very concerned about people who support animals and their well-being, very concerned that we are speaking out against primates being used. And if it's my understanding that a chimpanzee is just 1% away from being genetically identical to a human being.
That's correct. You can even transfer their blood plasma for your own. They're 99% of our DNA. In fact, we're closer to chimps than a horse is to a zebra. In fact, we're closer to chimps than a chimp is to an orangutan. It's that amazing. And they're highly social, complex creatures. They have psychological needs. They form relationships. Aunties look after babies when the mother is busy, and so on. And people like Goodwin have absolutely no compunction. They just don't see it. As a matter of convenience, they will keep a baby chimpanzee in a cage the size of a little bit bigger than a microwave oven. When that chimp grows up, they will keep him or her in a cage the size of your refrigerator. And they won't have anything to see, anything to touch. They won't be in contact with others of their species or anyone else, especially if you infect them, as these people do, with infectious diseases, which means that no human being wants to go near them either.
And then keep them isolated.
Keep them totally isolated.
The rest of their lives.
And there's something wrong. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, they're so similar to us that their use is indispensable, and then say, well, but we're going to totally ignore their needs and their psyche, their well-being.
And again, for our well-being, let's do research on through computers and through
and also we have so many clinical studies that are not funded. Dr. Murray Cohen was in front of the United States Congress on the 25th of April, and he was complaining. He's been a physician for 25 years. He treats people who are drug dependent, and they cannot get the money to get crack babies taken care of. They cannot get the money for school counseling for drug-dependent mothers-to-be, and they can't get the money for human clinical programs. You have to be on a waiting list 6 to 12 months if you're drug-dependent, and most addicts are not in a state of mind where they are able to coast that long and still be interested in treatment. But instead, the money will go to give addictions to monkeys, give addictions to rats, and watch withdrawal convulsions in those animals when we need that money for human beings. It's rubbish.
And the profit motive is, and one thing I always feel so good about with people who support animal interest is when it gets down to why do you support animals, certainly you care about the animals and you care about yourself. Why does a medical researcher support it? Profit, money, billions and billions and billions of dollars. We certainly don't get paid at all or very well for our work.
You know, so if you read him, he's now allocating $1 million as a starter amount to go into the schools and talk to children and desensitize them about animals, which is a total scandal. But he wants to, according to his own memorandum, he wants to find ways to fund the Foundation for Biomedical Research in its programs. If you look at the foundation, they may talk about children and burns and so on, but you look who funds them and who they represent. It's people like Charles River breeding companies. These are multi-million-dollar international corporations. They churn out every animal under the sun in their labs, here in West Germany, you name it, to sell to the labs. So their interest is not only in not decreasing the use of animals by even one rat, but is in increasing a dependency on animals because they get so much money. And here we have a government agent who is in bed with this organization and its private interests to the detriment of the American public, and certainly to the detriment of the animals too.
I think it's a great progress report on your work and others' work, and the fact that the researchers are beginning to come out of their closet and try to defend something that is absolutely defenseless. It's just a matter of time. When we come back, you're going to come to a film that's called Unnecessary Fuss. And again, we ask that you be open, you discard all of the myths that you were raised with. And when we talk about twisted truths, as Dr. Goodwin talked about the animal rights people dealing with twisted truths, he talked about the fact that, quote, no, we don't torture animals. Make your own decision. This, to my knowledge, is the first time that this film has been aired in the Richmond area. And again, I want to thank Lab TV for allowing us to do that. We very much appreciate it. When we come back, after you see the film, we're going to give you some solutions, what you can do. How can you let this word spread? How can you let the other side of the story come out? And Marlo, I know you're hurrying me up, but let me just show you one more thing. When you see in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, we're going to get it tomorrow from them, when you see in the Richmond Times-Dispatch a photograph of Sammy Busby, who was on our show a couple of weeks ago on the Gillette issue, and the show got tremendous calls and tremendous support, and a lot of Gillette products were sent back because of the testing. He's carried out with the saying hogtied during protest, and again, civil disobedience. You see Ted Bundy walking around, or used to walk around with handcuffs and 2 policemen on each side, and here's someone concerned about animals in this position. This film is going to show you why Sammy Busby was there protesting. It's time for the media to show both sides, and if they hear from you, they will. So we'll come back from break and go straight to the film. Thanks.
Have you heard about the war on drugs? You have? Well, then you know we're losing, or rather our kids are losing. In this country today, between the ages of 14 and 17, we have 4.5 million alcoholics. Not kids who drink beer, but kids with a disease. I'm Gordon Pryor, and this is GRIP. Please, let's get together every other Thursday from 8 to 9 on Blab TV and talk about our kids and what we must do to win the war on drugs. I'll be looking for you.
Continental Cable Channel 7 and Stora Cable Channel 8.
Catch us every Tuesday night at 7:30. Sports of Sorts, brought to you by Harris Flippin' Sporting Goods. I'm Frank Soden.
And I'm P.K. Perrin, and most of the time our guests are big hits. And we'll be covering a multitude of sporting events in the Richmond area.
And they could be local, state, or national in scope. So join us every Tuesday night, 7:30. Brought to you by Harris Flippin' Sporting Goods, Sports of Sorts. We'll look forward to having you with us then.
Baby, I'm yours, and I'll be yours until the stars fall from the sky. Yours until the rivers all run dry.
We thought it might it be comforting for you to know that through every precious, frustrating, frightening, wonderful moment that goes along with being a parent, St. Mary's Hospital is here, dedicated to doing our very best to provide you and your baby with all the love and care and understanding it takes to make sure everything goes just the way it should until your baby isn't a baby anymore.
Baby, I'm yours, and I'll be yours until 2 and 2 is 3.
Signs is your best source for quality signs. We offer the widest range of options for you to choose from: colors, materials, designs, and type styles. For best results, West End Signs utilizes the latest in computerized sign-making equipment. West End Signs produces a wide range of products, signs of all types, banners, truck and window lettering, silk screening, and much, much more. West End Signs accepts fax orders and is conveniently located behind Price Club. Call for free estimates.
When you're looking for a home, finding the best value is a combination of careful research and thorough evaluation. A Bowers Nelms and Fonville sales associate with complete knowledge of the market and support of the area's largest full-service real estate firm can make your search easier. Simply call one of our 12 Bowers Nelms and Fonville sales offices and you'll discover, in the heart of Virginia, we are real estate.
The first Seibert service station opened here in 1976, determined not to be just another gas station. So they set themselves apart from the competition through hard work and high standards. And over the years, the Seibert name has grown to mean dependable auto care, delivery of home heating oil, and damage-free towing. Today, Seibert service stations continue to open throughout the Richmond, Petersburg, and Fredericksburg area. And Seibert's continues to find better ways to serve you. Because at Seibert's, we believe there's a lot more to service stations than just pumping gas.
There, Randy, focus. He's wide awake, blinking his eye. Good head tone. Turning his head over when he's really awake. He's going to be a good one. He keeps on turning his head to. He has good tone in the right upper extremity.
This monkey, with electrodes fastened to her chest and tubes inserted into the base of her skull and down her throat, has been inflicted with severe brain damage. She has 4 electrodes bolted into her head, from which tubing descends to what the experimenters describe as a stab wound in her neck. She is one of hundreds of primates who have been injured and killed in the laboratory you're about to visit. In the next few minutes, you will see practices defended by the University of Pennsylvania, where experimenters inflict repeated head injuries in baboons. What you are about to see and hear is all footage the animal researchers took themselves. It offers only a glimpse of what the taxpayer pays for but is never allowed to see. Aside from my voice, the voices you will hear belong to the experimenters themselves. The rock music is theirs.
B17T, a stellar trained monkey, for, it's all going to be dubbed later, for thrust in the lateral position. The animal, as you can see, moves normally. He is off anesthesia. He is potted in a helmet. There is an endotracheal tube in place. He has the usual monitoring for ICP, EEG, somatosensories, etc. The animal weighs 6.9 kilos.
Here, a researcher attempts to cut some tubing and handle a struggling baboon who has regained consciousness. Poor handling results in a fluid, perhaps acid, being spilled on the animal.
This makes my day. Some of these guys are just don't you put him in the fucking goddamn cage?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get, would you cut this? I'm trying to cut this damn thing. What was it? Huh?
Acid. It's gonna eat your balls off.
Oh, my little baby, his eyes are wide open. I'm ready to take you up to your cage.
You want to get some documentation on film? No, he's lifting his head. He did it. Come on, baby.
We better get some nitrous.
This is electrocautery, a painful procedure for an unanesthetized animal. The experimenter acknowledges that the animal is lifting his head and needs nitrous, yet he continues to cut into the monkey's head while the animal responds to pain, a violation of the NIH guide in such procedures. The researcher then cuts in the wrong place.
Stop her. Not very big. He wants to get up. He says, I've had it hurts him, for Christ's sake.
Now, all you gotta do is make a little slit in the periosteum and push it back.
Yeah, but it bleeds. This is monkey. You got this under control of bleeding, you know?
That's what the motor is for.
This federally funded head injury clinic receives approximately 1 million tax dollars every year and is now in its 13th year. This baboon has suffered the infliction of severe brain damage, and she may receive as many as 5 more head injuries in the next 9 months before she is killed. In the next sequences, you will see how she was injured in a hydraulic type of device called the Pen 2. It took these researchers 10 years to develop the Pen 2. About to be injured, this baboon is strapped down to the operating table. His ankles and wrists are bound with canvas straps. His head is cemented into a metal helmet and will be thrust at a 60-degree angle at a force of up to 1,000 Gs. A force of only 15 Gs can kill a human being. You will see the baboons as they struggle and grasp at their restraints, showing clearly that they are partially and sometimes fully conscious and aware. The stated purpose of these experiments is to simulate auto crash, football, and other sports injuries. Among those who have stated publicly that the baboons are fully sedated and feel no pain are Dr. Thomas Langfit, the principal investigator at the Head Injury Clinic, University of Pennsylvania spokesperson Virgil Renzulli, the Director of Stroke and Trauma for the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Michael Walker, the Executive Director of the American Physiological Society, Dr. Orr Reynolds, and the Chairman of the University of Pennsylvania's Animal Care Committee, Dr. Musha Shalev. Their statements are in direct contradiction to the researchers' formal submissions to NIH. Those documents state that the baboons are unanesthetized up to 1 hour prior to injury during injury, and immediately thereafter. These animals were given the hallucinogenic drug phencyclidine, also known as PCP. Phencyclidine is not a painkiller. An animal under its influence can experience panic when exposed to noise.
Yeah. Ready? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 2, 1.
Felon, too. Nobody knows that, though.
Was guilty by means of insanity,
As you can see, the monkey is very active. He's patiently waiting to be injured.
So it's playing now.
Okay, guys,
1 second. The animal is now in position or about ready to sustain an injury. As you can see, he's very active with normal motor functioning. He's quite agitated also.
This baboon was so agitated that he rolled over a total of 5 times before the researcher taped him to the table.
Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. The animal has just sustained his injury.
Baboons, rhesus monkeys, and even chimpanzees have been brain damaged over the past decade in Generali's laboratory, sometimes in devices such as this. Here, a monkey is yoked by the neck inside a water-filled tank. His only contact with the outside world is a tube down his throat, through which he must breathe to keep himself from drowning. The tank was rocked repeatedly and violently about to inflict brain damage. This brain-damaged baboon, whose reflexes are being crudely tested on a desktop, has survived 1 injury so far.
All right, as you can see, this is a generally comatose monkey. This is B22, exactly 24 hours after injury. As can be seen, the animal is having these rhythmical locomotion type movements. He moves all extremities well. There's no obvious deficit. The coordination is definitely off. When you put the animal on his belly, you'll see an attempt to right. No attempt to right himself.
Is that in focus?
Yeah.
Yes, sure is.
The animal has both eyes open, as can be seen.
Beautiful shot. Beautiful.
He wants to go for a walk. There he goes.
Putting his best foot forward there.
Notice how the experimenter lifts the baboon by his left shoulder and continues to apply pressure to it, even though later we hear him say that the shoulder may be dislocated.
Much will hold his own weight up. There's no coordination here at all. As can be seen, the animal will spring up and get out of his playpen by himself. There's definitely a minimum of coordination here. You can see the animal has a pretty impressive grasp.
I didn't get that.
Picking up the chair, very strong monkey.
Move him back a little bit, Robbie. It's a little too close, I think, to get. So I need to pan back a little bit.
You can see that this is one of the better demonstrations of the grasp response these monkeys have. So much for that. This animal does have impressive grasps. The animal is just holding on to 1 finger on either side. This guy could be a chin-up champion here. Look at this. The animal is
bring him up.
I don't really detect any motor abnormality. There's a question, I don't know if you can see here, there's a bump on this animal's shoulder. And this is either a shoulder dislocation or there's a, well, that's a good picture, Tom. The animal does make a few noises. There's a good view of his eyes. The peculiar left eye abnormality. There's the animal looking to his left. The animal looking to his right.
Okay.
And that's pretty good.
Dr. Morrison defends the practices of the head injury clinic.
The animal is down for a second lateral bang. That's him waving. As you can see, the monkey's awake, moving all extremities. That's his trainer who taught him how to do those tricks. The animal is mounted in a helmet. He's monitored for ICP, EKG, EEG, blood pressure, etc. The animal is to be thrust in the lateral position to become a chronic animal for long-term studies.
You might want to mention that this monkey's already been banged once.
I said that, second bang.
Did you
So
say
this
that?
is the animal's second bang. He was banged once at 680 G-force and quickly recovered. Cheerleading over in the corner, we have B10. B10 wishes his counterpart well. As you can see, B10 is alive. B10 is watching and hoping for a good result. Future B17 over here.
Yeah.
After taking 10 years to develop equipment designed to deliver precise injury, experimenters now add an unknown variable. They inflict multiple, inexact blows to the freshly damaged brain by using a hammer and screwdriver to remove the helmet.
Baboon.
Change his name called Slip.
We could run a diet service. You bring them in, slam them, you put them in bed. Evo's weight reduction clinic.
According to scientists in the field, these blows can invalidate the results of the experiment. Hammering can also interfere with measurements of ICP, intracranial pressure, measurements which are vital to this experiment.
Come in and they'll be running around in the lab. They're very conceivable. Boone is the only one we know. Look, he's moving. He's moving. Look, see? He moves. No, he doesn't breathe. He had this little string on his tail that we just pull up. Push. It's a boy.
Some animals receive up to 160 hammer blows at a time, yet the delivery of these extra blows is not revealed in the researcher's grant application.
We're thinking of going on strike. In our contract, it says no more than 3 comatose bloomings at any one time. That's in the contract. I can hear you. Oh.
According to the NIH guide, a facility designed for sterile surgery, such as this, needs to be maintained in such a manner as to ensure its cleanliness. A 1984 Department of Agriculture inspection of this laboratory showed many sanitation and other violations of the Animal Welfare Act.
Why? Because they're basically incompetent down here. Well, I mean, just in general, our procedures are dust. They're not regular in their cleaning at all, and I've called them 3 times. When they do clean, it's half-assed. Lately, the ventilation system's been spewing out some sort of dust. It's the type of thing that I don't, I complain about, but I mean, you come down here and it smells like urine. I mean...
Oh, look at that roof. We had about a month's worth of urine at the bottom of that thing.
Not the worst. Urine asphyxiation.
No, we had to get her out of that. She was just filling it up. There were buckets of urine.
In violation of the NIH guide, experimenters in this laboratory repeatedly fail to perform sterile surgery. Although this researcher is wearing gloves, the surgery can in no way be considered sterile, as no mask, gown, cap, or surgical drapes are used, and the researcher not only rests his surgical instrument on the baboon's unshaven chest, but places the instrument back in the baboon's head after he drops it to the floor. Again, in violation of the NIH guide, these experimenters smoke continually at the operating table, not only before the animals are injured, but while they're being injured, after they suffer injury, and while the researchers perform surgery. Smoking can distort the very subtle microvasculature changes which the researchers are paid to accurately record. These experimenters are also violating Pennsylvania state law, which prohibits smoking in the vicinity of bottled oxygen and nitrous oxide, both highly dangerous gases in use in this room.
What's his breathing doing, Randy?
While the experimenter on the far side of the table lights up a cigarette, the student working on the monkey comments that he has 3 months to learn neurosurgery.
Good job. You guys enough of this? Boards. Huh? You gotta stop eating boards. You gotta learn all this shit all over. These guys don't teach us nothing. Then it comes to the last 3 months, you gotta learn neurosurgery.
This monkey may die outright as a result of further brain damage. If not, he will be killed by an injection of formaldehyde into his brain, or by having his brain frozen and then being decapitated. Anesthesia is not required by law for such procedures, and there is no mention of its administration in these researchers' protocols. This animal was never seen by representatives of local animal welfare groups, whose requests to visit the head injury clinic were repeatedly denied. The university also refused to permit an investigation of cruelty complaints by duly empowered SPCA law enforcement officials.
3, 2, 1.
The animal has just sustained his injury.
In violation of the NIH guide, a baboon has been left unattended after receiving brain injury. Much later, a student, the only person in the laboratory, discovers that the animal is dying.
Come on, monkey, hang in there just a little while longer, baby. What the goddamn problem is with this?
Experimenters' carelessness also results in broken teeth and other injuries. Here, one baboon loses part of his ear to the hammer.
Sound like I left a little ear behind.
An experimenter ties this injured, conscious baboon to the operating table as he prepares to leave.
Oh, have some axle damage though, monkey, else we wasted $500 worth of HRP on you. That's right, sucker. Get a little closer, just a little. The monkey in the street interview. Don't be shy now, sir. Nothing to be afraid of.
What's going on here?
She doesn't look elusive.
There she goes. She's on TV.
Oh my God.
Holding her monkey.
Look, yeah!
Oh, go.
It's like the cat. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Look at the cat commercial.
Say over here. Say cheese.
Looks like she's gonna fall in.
Yeah.
You better hope the anti-vivisection people don't get a hold of this film.
The hell?
The anti-vivisection people, they get a nice shot of you.
Why don't you
You got Larry's name
for
in
me?
the picture.
And Karen. Now look. Yeah, it's like get that part on this camera.
Right. As the punk look.
The punk look is what you said. Wants to shake hands. Come on. Oh, not again.
You're gonna rescue me from this, aren't you? Aren't you? You're gonna rescue me from this, aren't you? Aren't you?
These experiments at the University of Pennsylvania are being paid for by you, the taxpayer. These experimenters are now applying for even more federal funding. If you are concerned about what you have just seen, please contact your congressional representatives today and insist that they take action.
Is your classic car in need of a fine tuning? Are the sounds that your car makes not exactly music to your ears? Hi, I'm Joan Rosmus. Import Auto House invites you to join us live on Blab TV Wednesdays at 9 p.m. for the best technical and mechanical service advice for your import in Central Virginia. Service Manager Frank Driggs will talk directly with you about any automotive concerns you may have regarding your import. Join us Wednesdays at 9 p.m. for Import Auto House Show, only on Blab TV.
McGruff here with Regina to sing Users Are Losers.
You know it's okay to say no. I'm telling you it's true. Learning when to say no.
Say no.
That's what you need to do. Learning how to say no.
Say no.
Can make a winner of you. 'Cause users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs. Don't use drugs. Winners don't use and users don't win. So don't use drugs. Don't use drugs. If you know a user even part of the time, tell him to quit.
Take a bite out of crime.
Users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs.
And help me take a bite out of crime.
It was in 1919 that Sam and Leo Rosenthal began the legacy of Standard Drug Company. From a modest beginning at the corner of First and Broad Streets, this family-owned business has expanded to meet the healthcare needs of the Richmond metropolitan community. In the 69 years since its inception, Standard Drug has strived to keep abreast of advancements in the ever-changing profession of pharmacy. Progress has come in the form of computers, which now enable pharmacists to assume a greater role in consulting patients and physicians with respect to modern-day drugs and their functions. In the face of change, Standard Drug has remained true to the principles upon which it was founded: professionalism, service, and care for the individual. Now, as in 1919, the Standard Drug pharmacist is a friend you can talk to about your prescription and healthcare needs.
Sally Baker with Noah's Friends Unlimited, discussing medical research with Ingrid Newkirk, co-founder of PETA. Just to state again, Dr. Goodwin's article in the Richmond Times-Dispatch this past Sunday, he said, no, we don't torture on animals. He also said, we always reacted defensively. We left the airtime to them being people concerned about this type of thing. And if the big lie is repeated often enough, people will believe it. Who's lying here? Who's telling the truth? It's time for things to change. And I wanted to talk very briefly with one of the audience members, Betty Lou LaJoy. You had a comment that the film still, as many times as I've seen it, that the Medical College of Virginia made regarding this film.
Well, it was very interesting. The person with whom I share my life, the person with whom I live at the time, was employed on the faculty at the Medical College of Virginia, a researcher, but not using animals. When this film first broke, the videotape, we decided that we would show some of the other researchers, other faculty members at the Medical College of Virginia. So he started showing private showings to people who wanted to see it. Right away, some of the people in the head injury research at the Medical College of Virginia, and you should know this is a very large, federally funded research center right here in Richmond, using cats, primates, dogs, in head injury. But one of them complained without even viewing the tape, and it was incredible. Rumors were rampant around the medical college. They talked about an Animal Liberation Front member perhaps being on the faculty. They said that they were going to be broken into. They even had a date. I think it was something like February 23rd. The Medical College of Virginia will be broken into.
And maybe one of their employees chickened out. That's not.
It was hilarious. But I think the interesting point is that my partner came under a lot of criticism. Finally, they decided to show unnecessary fuss to any faculty member who wanted to see it in an open meeting. But it's interesting when you know some of the people involved. If you're a researcher there, a technician, and I had many technicians come to me who worked in head injury labs or other labs at research who want to remain anonymous, who said, I don't know what I can do, I'll lose my job. There's a great deal of pressure, there's a great deal of ostracism if you are a scientist, a technician. If you choose alternative methods, not using animals, you may not get a grant because it's an old boy network. Also, there's one other thing that's important to point out when federal grants are given for these research projects. every institution receiving grants gets a certain percentage for their administration. At MCV, I believe about 50% of the grant money is used for administrators' large salaries. It's used to support the whole school. It doesn't necessarily go to the research project itself.
Thank you. That's very enlightening. And as one of you asked Ingrid during this horror film, what was the motive of this test? And you did a few mannerisms.
I did
said,
People ask
"Stop
me,
it."
well, what's the point of that experiment? And I often do this, because it is careerism, a lot of it. We have a federal agency that doesn't look over the experimenters' shoulders, and, you know, somebody gets $1 million this year to do those sorts of things to animals, and they carry on this career path. And no one ever says, hey, Bob, you know, you haven't discovered a thing, and you've been doing this for 8 years, and boy, it's costing us a lot, and where are we going? And if no one ever says that, Bob is not going to turn around and say, boys, you better take me off the federal grant gravy train, because I'm not getting anywhere. He carries right on doing it.
Time to get a new job. Asbestos workers had to get a new job when it was harmful to our health. Constantly, of course, you hear, and I was raised again to believe this, what about the progress that we've made? You're never sure what it is. It's some intangible out there, but you believe there's progress. What progress have we made as a result of that?
Well, that's the thing. The people who use animals want you to have the hope that one day they'll come up with the magic bullet for you name it. When you look at things, we don't have a cure for the common cold. When you look at where we have come with understanding the AIDS virus, and you look at the research community, they have tried to infect every animal on the face of the earth with AIDS. It so happens that the only animal who dies of AIDS is the human being. And so you can't even test an AIDS vaccine on a chimpanzee, as close as we are to them, because they don't die of AIDS. They can incubate the virus. So if you give them the vaccine and they don't die, what conclusion do you draw? We don't have cures for MS. In fact, MS now is thought to be linked to the old monkey-based vaccines for polio. We don't have cures for just about anything. Our cancer rate is on the rise.
Most of our nutrition-oriented.
Yeah, if we, you say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that's just one little area, although it's a terribly significant one, where if we put a lot of our federal health dollars, instead of giving diseases to other animals, if we use that money to prevent heart attack, disease, stroke, diabetes, all largely preventable diseases, only unfortunately you have to wait till you have your first heart attack before you see your doctor, who will then tell you how to change your diet to prevent the second one, we'd be a lot better off. So it's a question of, if you care about human health, ask our health department, why are we still stuck in the 1800s, basically? We open up animals, we force feed them, we give them drug addiction, we make them alcoholics. What's the point? You know, we've got a lot of money, but we only have one chunk of money. And if we put that money into helping people, not in giving diseases and injuries and head trauma and so on to baboons and mice and rabbits and you name it, we're going to get a lot further. We're going to live longer. And at the moment, we have an appalling life expectancy. We're 19th in the world in life expectancy. You can move to 18 other countries and live longer. Our later years are spent in nursing homes, on drugs of one kind or another with side effects. We're not doing very well, and yet we spend more money on animal experiments than the next 4 countries put together. So something is very, very wrong.
And for nothing. I mean, it's that type of energy and monies, if that had been channeled toward some of our new modern techniques or whatever, maybe we would have cures. I think, oh no, it's not almost over. I could listen to Ingrid for hours. I'm sorry, I looked at you, Marla. The solutions. We wanted to talk very quickly about solutions, and I think if we let our newspaper know and let our networks know that we want to at least see both sides of the story when an issue is covered, and that's what journalism is about. It's supposed to be objective, fair-minded journalism. When you throw a picture in the paper of a person being carted off because he protested medical research, show why he protested medical research. Each of you have the power to make a difference. One person, one voice is just a whisper, but together we can make a loud voice and we can make a difference. Let your newspaper know. I may not continue my subscription if this kind of bias continues on. Let your networks know how you feel. I may not continue watching networks. I'll always watch Blab forever because I very much appreciate their willingness and their courage to expose this issue. Ingrid, words from the heart are very difficult to express sometimes, and you are a miracle to the animals, and you are a miracle to the humans, and you are our hero and our animals' hero, and I just thank you with every breath I have for all that you've done and the difference that you've made in my life and everybody's life here, and we love you, and keep up the good work. We're behind you.
You too, Sally, and your viewers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Call Blab tomorrow and let them know you appreciate giving the animals a voice. Take care.